And we begin this afternoon in Eldoret, where residents of Chanise Estate in Eldoret were yesterday in panic after a suspected explosive was found buried in a neighborhood piece of land. Now, the device, which appeared rusty, had been buried in the soil for a long time, and it was discovered by farm workers who had been hired to uproot trees in the farm. They were forced to stop their work as they waited for police from Langas police station to arrive in order to assess the device.
Nilikuwa nalima hapa, wakati nilifikia hiyo kisiki nikuta hiyo bomu imeingia ndani na shoka ikaikata. Sasa vile ikata nikatoa nikaifuruta na mkono ndio nikatupa huko kando.
Kitu kama hiyo kupatikana hapo ni hatari, na ni hatari kwa usalama hata ya watoto kwa area. Kwa maana hii kijiji kuna watoto wengi, kuna watu wanapita na ni karibu na njia bado.
Elsewhere, Devolution Cabinet Secretary Anne Waiguru is advising those conducting the capacity assessment and rationalization of public service exercise to be prudent in order to avoid carrying the same mistakes into the new system. Now, speaking during the launch of the exercise in Nakuru, Waiguru emphasized that the exercise is part of the steps the government is taking to address escalating wage bill in the country. She did say the success of the program will help the government cut spending and at the same time increase government revenue.
When you know whether somebody has 3-4 salaries, for example. Today, I think when we were in Kisumu, somebody walked up to one of my colleagues, and I think they thought when we start the biometric, we might see that they're there. They said, you know, I've been receiving 2 salaries, and I don't know why I have been receiving it. Now, when you hear that, you know that we have a problem. And this problem, we need to find out how far it has extended. Because you can't say you've been taking 2 salaries and you don't know why they were 2. And you've been taking it until the day you saw the biometric, then you realize that maybe they might be able to find you out. So that is why we are doing this rationalization. And those are the people we've been calling ghosts, because we can see we have this one person, but there's another person using the same documents as this other person. So already we can start seeing that we are bearing, this exercise is beginning to bear fruit.
Here's a question for you. Have you ever seen a leopard? Well, residents of Gishuga in Laikipia County could, and they're now living in fear after a stray leopard attacked the village last night, killing 8 sheep and wounding others. The leopard did not consume the carcasses. The residents believe that the leopard strayed from Mount Kenya forest and are now demanding for its immediate capture. The affected farmers want compensation for the dead and wounded animals from the Kenya Wildlife Services. The Wildlife Conservation and Management Act of 2013 that came to effect in January this year provides for compensation for any person who suffers loss or damage to crops, livestock or other property from wildlife. After a claim to the county's Wildlife Conservation and Compensation Committee is considered.
Lakini endapo wataendelea kumdumisha hapa, endapo hawataweza kumshika na kumzuia, sisi bila shaka yote tutalazimika kuchukua hatua za kujikinga.
Sasa sisi tunahofia mnyama akiwa karibu na sisi tunakaaje na watoto wetu watakaaje?
From Laikipia to Migori, where a 35-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of killing his girlfriend and leaving her body at a guest house in Migori town. Now, the woman, who was a first-year student at Narok University, was found wrapped in bedding at the Highway Complex Lodge after the receptionist detected a bad odor coming from the room that had not been in use for 2 days. And that's according to the Migori police. The man who confessed to the murder went into hiding after committing the crime and was traced through personal effects he left behind.
The deceased person has been established to be a student, a first-year student at Narok University. She's old, aged 19 years old. Her name's Janet Awar. After launching investigation, we have come to discover that the deceased has been in a relationship with the accused person for a period of 2 months. And we have also established that this man indeed is a serial killer, because during the year 2011, he committed the same offense where he killed his girlfriend, and the case is before Kisii High Court.
Very scary event in Migori. Let's go to Keiyo North constituency, where residents in Elgeyo Marakwet County have initiated plans to recall their legislator, Dr. James Murgo. The residents are accusing the MP of poor service delivery, arrogance and biasness on matters development. Led by MSO member of County Assembly Christopher Cheboiboch and his Kapchemutu counterpart, they held protests across the 10 town, after which they initiated the collection of signatures to recall the MP. The MP's office manager Hilary Lai had a hectic time trying to cool the angry protesters. He did promise to deliver their petition to the Member of Parliament. Some of the MP's supporters, however, dismissed the plan, terming it political.
Kuomba watu wa Keiyo North, Saiti Kapchemutu, Tambaj na Mutei waunga watu wa MSO Ward to sign signatures 1000, tuitishe Murgo akuje nyumbani, tutafute mchumbe ila anaweza kulisha watu wote.
MCA is supporting the reinstatement of former Nakuru County Assembly Majority Leader George Moora by TNA Secretary General Onyango Olo have expressed disappointment in the ruling made by County Assembly Speaker Susan Keheka that the incumbent Majority Leader Samuel Waithoke continue to hold office until the court rules on the matter. The group that supports Moora wants the Speaker to go according to Olo's letter addressed to the Assembly to reinstate Moora, saying he was unprocedurally kicked out of office.
There is a need for balance in the election of the Majority Leader. This has not been followed. The Speaker is aware of this. And if the Speaker of the County Assembly of Nakuru can rubbish the decision of the Secretary General of the ruling party, ENA, then we have an issue here.
Amini usiamini, kura 55 ndio ziweka Bwana Waithoke katika kiti out of 64 members of the Jubilee. Kwa hivyo tunasikitika na yale mambo ambayo chama chetu wanafanya pale katika Nairobi.
Tunasema na George Waithoke, na kama hiyo vitingi watalete, tuko tayari. Tunasema tuonane mchana si usiku. Tusipoonana kwa mchana, tutafuta usiku na mulika mwizi. Tuko tayari. Waithoke afanya kazi.
Let's now look at the perennial conflict that may actually come to an end, and well, that's if a peace pact is signed at the Kenya-Uganda border holds. The deal signed by officials from both countries is meant to secure peace between members of the Turkana community and their Karamojong counterparts from Uganda.
It was a show of unity portrayed through the dance on the very same grounds where many traded on with fear, but that is now a past. Lokiriama village in Loima sub-county is located near the Kenya-Ugandan border. The once sworn enemies celebrate 41 years of peace after a peace agreement was signed in 1973.
I was sitting next to the minister from Uganda, and he told me one of those fantastic entertainers who sang for us here with a kitenge, and he seemed to be very popular. I'm being told he was a warrior who gave up his guns.
Cases of cattle rustling made headlines in Turkana County, with numerous deaths following fights between them and their neighbors. Kenya, Uganda and Ethiopia delegations from the Karamojong cluster today sit listening, being asked to surrender illegal firearms that are still in the villages.
A gun never dies. If you can kill this one, the other one inherits. The other one is shot also, another one inherits. One gun can go and circulate around all the people. All of them die from time to time. A machine, which is a machine and a metal, will remain. And our people get finished.
Turkana County government says they have begun dialogue with leaders in Ethiopia, Uganda and Sudan in order to get lasting solutions to the porous borders, including the South Omo region involving the Merile bandits of Ethiopia.
Where there is political will, there is a way. Kuna barabara. Same thing with South Sudan.
The meeting in Turkana County happening in the same week that the world marks the International Peace Day. The goal here is that peace prevails to ensure development in an area that has for years been bogged down by the annual drought and insecurity, a step today towards development. Masi Kandie, KTN, Turkana County.
Now, Nakumatt employees are set for a 12% pay increase following the signing of a collective bargaining agreement between the retailer and the Kenya Union of Commercial, Food and Allied Workers. In addition, all union employees shall receive wage increment of 10% beginning May of 2015. The move is, however, set to put a strain on the retailer's business, with staff costs set to rise by 200 million shillings annually. Here's KTN's Joy Doreen Bira with the details.
In the wake of increased employee strikes demanding for better pay as the cost of living increases, Nakumatt employees can now breathe a sigh of relief. A signed deal between Kenya Union of Commercial, Food and Allied Workers and Nakumatt will see Nakumatt employees enjoy allowances ranging from improved night shift, housing and travel allowances, in addition to a 10% pay rise. Cashiers at Nakumatt will now earn a basic monthly pay of 22,321 shillings and are entitled to free accommodation from the retailer or a house allowance equivalent to 15% of basic wage and a further 3,000 shillings. Night shift meal allowances will double to 200 shillings a night as transport allowance increases by 39% to 3,200 shillings per month, while safari and subsistence allowances have also increased to 3,600 shillings monthly for duties within Kenya and 4,500 shillings within East Africa. The 4,500 employees will, on confirmation of employment, also contribute 5% of their gross salary to the pension scheme, while the employer shall contribute 5% of the respective employee's gross salary to the scheme. Top retail stores have been grappling with demands for higher pay since last year. Tuskys Supermarket and Uchumi have all had to increase staff wages following threats to down their tools. The increased pay is expected to cost Nakumatt an estimated 170 million shillings annually and will be hard-pressed to increase revenue and look for innovative ways to cut costs. Joy Doreen Bira, KTN Business.
We now have a look at what's happening with regard to our reading and writing culture. And as promised, I do have with me David Oyer, who's the chair of the Nairobi International Book Fair. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for hosting me.
All right, so there's a question that everyone is always asking when it comes to books and Kenyans. Are we reading enough?
Not at all. We are not. We could do a lot more than we are doing currently.
But then how do you determine if a country is reading enough or not?
Well, you get to observe it, first of all, because all you need to do is walk to the bus stations and look at the people in either matatus or the buses and find out how many of them are reading. Look at the numbers. Bookshops are turning over. And they will tell you that we do not have a critical mass of readers. It's a very small base of readers who keep reading, but the majority of Kenyans are basically not reading as they ought to.
What do you think influences this? Why do we not like reading?
Well, there are several factors, but some of them really is that sometimes that culture begins at a very early stage. And when you do not have family traditions where people get together around the book, then you do not expect those people to develop with that culture of reading, you know, having developed that habit. Secondly, is that our education system is really very heavy on examinations and a lot of homework. Kids have homework they do all the way up to late at night, over the weekends and during holidays, and they do not have that time to step back, first of all, and play, but secondly, to just find a good book and enjoy.
It, which is actually quite sad. But what is the impact of this? There's someone who might be watching and saying, well, I don't read, it doesn't add food on my plate, it's not going to pay my bills, but it's having a real effect, isn't it?
On several fronts. Number one is that you lose out on the cheapest form of entertainment, which is having a good book. Today, if you try to go to a movie, you know what the cost will be. You buy a book, and at 400-500 shillings, it will blow you away to lands that you may not never have traveled.
Yeah.
Number two is that reading helps stretch the imagination muscle, and it helps build creativity. And if we are not as creative as Kenyans as we ought to be, constructively creative, it probably could be because we are not reading much. Thirdly is that good reading for students particularly has direct bearing on their performance in school, on all subjects. And the latest report we have received is, number one, the poor essays that are coming out of our examinations. Number two is that people cannot express themselves well enough, and therefore, if you have people coming out of the school system into the job market and they can't read, they can't write properly, you can therefore imagine the quality of employees or business people that there will be. And that affects the competitiveness of our country.
Yeah.
And when you talk of building an economy that is knowledge-based, and you have people who have lethargy to knowledge and self-development, then we have a problem.
Well, you're telling me that we have graduates who are unable to express themselves effectively, but is a book fair going to change this?
A book fair is a talking point of very many people. We have lots of book lovers coming over. We have book lovers meeting their popular authors. We have book debates and literary debates that will be taking place, and we have people. We have an opportunity for people to come and find a new array of books that have been published in the last 1 year, and it is only one of the activities that Kenya Publishers Association basically holds over the year to ensure that we develop the reading habits of Kenyans.
Okay.
Yeah.
But as we wind up, you're talking about publishers. Are we seeing more and more Kenyans writing and being published by Kenyan publishers? Because we like to read ourselves. We like to see ourselves in the books.
Yes, I think the frustrating thing for very many authors is that there are not as many publishers as probably the demand for being published.
Are there that many writers, Kenyan writers?
Oh yes, Kenyans are writing. They're writing a lot. The tension with publishing houses is being able to cope with the demand of manuscripts, that are coming every day to the publishing houses.
All right. So people should come for this book fair, and it begins tomorrow, you said?
No, it begins today. It began today at the Sarit Center in Westlands, at the exhibition hall. And by the time I left, by 9 o'clock when it was opening, there were already queues of people waiting to get in there, which is a good sign.
Okay,
yeah.
So this is not just for parents looking to buy textbooks, it's also for book lovers and people who are just looking to get a new hobby.
Yes, because we have textbooks, but we have fiction books, and we have general books being exhibited. We have printers coming over there, we have artists, so it's an interaction of all kinds of people.
All right, well, David Waweru, thank you very much for making time to be with us on KTN Newsdesk.
Thank you very much.
And if you want to better express yourself, you have yourself a book, easiest form of entertainment, and it's usually not as expensive as one might imagine. Let me now give you your Did You Know fact. We're just winding up. Did you know that after viewing a 3D movie, there is a 67-year-old man who was born without depth perception? And he was cured after he watched it. And his brain finally awakened, and now he's able to view the world as we all are in 3D. Good for him and good for the 3D movie. My name is Edith Kimani. Good afternoon.